Good morning. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Is TV the New Film? This is a remarkably full house for 10:30 in the morning on a Friday at the Edinburgh International Television Festival. I think that's genuinely impressive. I assume that some of you have come straight here from the Soho House Party. Well done. So thank you, and you can take part later. We will open the floor up and you can ask as many questions as you like. We're going to discuss, is television the new film? And there are lots of reasons to pose that question, and lots of recent developments really in terms of talent from film working in TV. Tom Hardy has announced he's setting up his own production company. Clive Owen is working with Steven Soderbergh on a series. Fincher with House of Cards. Although I'm sure Fincher would like to nick some film talents for ITV. And there was an announcement, yesterday. Did Danny Cohen make an announcement yesterday? Yes,
we're doing some more Hollow Crown, and Sally Hawkins, she gets an Oscar nomination. What she want to do next? Television.
Okay,
excellent. There you go.
Perfectly illustrates the point. So let me introduce the panel. We'll start with Pippa. Pippa Neal set up Neal Street Productions.
Harris.
Sorry. Sorry, this is going really badly. I'm so sorry. I think whoever wrote the script did come straight here from the Soho House Party. I set up Neal Street Productions with Sam Mendes, and the company makes Call the Midwife and Revolutionary Road. Cameron Roach is head of drama at Sky, commissioned Penny Dreadful. Prior to that was producing and making shows such as Life on Mars, Footballers' Wives and Waterloo Road. Daniel Isaacs is COO at Kudos, makers of Broadchurch, Hunted, The Hour, Law and Order, and many others. S.J. Clarkson is here, one of the most in-demand directors on the planet. S.J. has but this is well, it's a sexy list of TV shows that you've directed. Ugly Betty, Dexter, House, and Orange is the New Black. That's sort of all the best shows on television.
Yeah, it's been kind of a fun bunch. It's been a fun time. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks very much. It's my agent here.
And Chris Oliver-Taylor has come all the way from Australia. Chris is the MD of Matchbox Pictures and made The Slap, the biggest TV drama to come out of Australia in years. So please put your hands together for our panel. Sorry, Chris. Really was down there. But let's just talk in general terms about what has changed. In the last 2-3 years, what's changed?
Well, I think possibly not just the last 2-3 years, but if you look back, there was a sense that, particularly with acting and directing talent, that you graduated from television to film. You know, you got your chunky state of play and you went off, a la David Yates, to direct Harry Potter. And I think now it's become very much a two-way street, so that people like Tom Hiddleston is starring in Avengers Ensemble and then comes back to do the Hollow Crown for us. Directors on Penny Dreadful, we had Juan Antonio Bayona, who just directed The Orphanage and Impossible. So he'd only ever worked in feature films but wanted to do TV. So I think it's just become respectable. It's become something that people aspire to, as opposed to perhaps in the past talent thinking, if I make a big splash on telly, I can go and live in Hollywood.
Yeah. I suppose as well, Cameron, it becomes self-fulfilling after a while, that if some big talent goes from film to television, other big talent is more comfortable to make that move because other people have done it in the first place.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I also think it's widening the opportunity for good storytellers to tell stories in different ways. And I think that just because someone has reached a certain stage in their career, it doesn't necessarily mean that they want to tell a story just in 2 hours. They might want to tell a story over longer form, like John Logan is doing on Penny Dreadful.
Yeah. Is the best work now in television, in terms of direction, in terms of scripted drama, do you actually think television has overtaken film?
I don't actually. I mean, I would say that because I make films as well as television, but I think that they are both, you know, frankly, having a fantastic period. And I think the other thing that has changed in this country is the high-end tax break, which, sorry to talk about money, but the fact that as producers now, we can get a tax break for filming expensive British drama here in a way that we couldn't 2 years ago. That's brought a lot of big shows here and encouraged people to put money into our shows, like, you know, Outlander and The Crown, the new Andy Harris series that he's doing with Pete Morgan, which will be a massive show, I think.
Oh my God! Sorry, that's the Netflix show.
Yeah.
That sounds absolutely remarkable. Isn't
Well,
that the...
not that remarkable.
Very expensive.
Yeah, anyway, they're not on the panel.
Isn't that something like the biggest ever commission in TV history?
I don't know. I'm sure Ben Stevenson might have commissioned some bigger things.
100 million
Ben had a BBC drama. But it's an enormous commitment by the channel, isn't it? Do you think, Daniel, in a way, just come back to that point about TV becoming stronger, is it in a way, when you look at the best drama on telly now, the sorts of stuff that SJ has directed, and True Detective, and obviously Breaking Bad, has TV become cooler and sexier than film?
Well, was the pay cable market in America sort of sets the standard with HBO and Showtime and FX and AMC particularly, you know, creating these amazing shows that you just mentioned. But I think, and the creep from that, the expectation of the audience is higher, aspirations are higher. But if you look at the UK market, where we all work, apart from our friend in the end, but the audience don't necessarily want or need that on a massive scale. So I think if you look at the big shows on BBC One and ITV1, they're not these sort of they're a different type of drama. They're not things featuring, you know, big Hollywood actors or necessarily needing those names. And these sorts of shows that we're talking about appear on the fringes, if you like, of the schedules, or they appear on BBC Two occasionally, Channel 4 sometimes, Sky. You know, different types of shows serve different types of audiences. But the big shows on big BBC One, ITV1 aren't those sorts of things. And I think it coincides a little bit with the film industry's not in great shape, really.
No.
So there's not a lot of independent, great movies being made, and all the Hollywood studios are closing down, or have closed down those bits of their business that were backing those sorts of films. So, you know, there is a creep. There's also a lot more film companies wanting to get into telly. So they come, the directors come, their talent come with them.
Yeah, right.
And it's a mixed economy. I think it's just a bit more on both sides. Yeah.
SJ, can I ask you the question I asked Pippa at the start of this was, you know, what has changed from your point of view as a director? What have you seen change over the last few years?
Well, I think during my time as a director, there's been an ever-increasing ambition to television. And I think that, you know, it was once just the small screen and there was an expectation of what that would look like. And then I do feel that, you know, certainly with shows like Spooks, when that first broke out, it was incredibly cinematic. And it weren't that there weren't other shows like that, but that's very quickly became the norm. And it became, TV has, I think, had a bigger ambition for some time now. And I just think it's slightly reaching its peak. So when you go onto a show as a director, you know that the references are often film references. And, you know, that there is I mean, there's a great ambition to the point that often you don't feel there's enough time and budget to make it. But I think that this ambition and the lines between film and television is blurring. And to jump on what Dan said, I do think the film industry is in, you know, a bit of a tricky phase right now, and certainly as a director out there that has been attached to films, trying to get films made, there does seem to be polarised. It seems to be you can get a $200 million franchise which signs actors up for 9 years, which is a lot of the reason why, or for 9 movies, which is a lot of the reasons why actors didn't want to do TV, because certainly in America they get signed up for a long period of time, or these very small independent films that are very, very low budget that find it difficult to get distribution. And so the films that people, you know, that I think are award season films where the directors, you know, really want to make those type of movies, they're very, very difficult to make if you're not established and you don't already have a track record and a fan base following. You know, I got some statistics from the BFI, and I believe that in the last 13 years, 11 years, in the last 11 years, 82% of directors who made films in the UK only ever made one film, they never made a second film. Right. And so that's a really terrifying statistic if you're a director going out looking into the film market, whereas if you look at television, there are over 300 channels now, and the opportunities seem to be endless, and it seems to be that if your voice didn't necessarily fit BBC One or ITV or Channel 4, there are now all these online channels which give, I think, a real opportunity for directors, which makes it a very exciting time. Whether it's going to take over from film, because I think there's nothing more magical than going to a cinema and having the lights low and be escaping for 90 minutes, and that's something that I won't ever, you know, give up, and it's something that I truly love and still aspire to. But I do think that TV, the lines are blurring, and I think that the talent seems to merge and cross over because there's just more of an opportunity in TV to tell the stories that people want to tell.
You know, you use that word ambition. When you sign up to direct a show like Orange is the New Black, you're very aware of that ambition, the ambition they have early on. Could you just explain a bit more about how they communicate the scale of ambition that they have to you when you're directing a show like that?
Well, I think they communicate it by how many meetings and interviews it takes to get on the job. And, you know, and I think you pretty much know at that point, this is a big show. And, you know, I've jumped through, you know, speaking to the, you know, the network, the studio, the financiers, the producer, and then finally the showrunner. And then you get the tip. You think, OK, this is a big show to be working on. So I think that's pretty much communicated as you get there. But when you're on it, I mean, there's just a level of expectation, I think, that, you know, I mean, I find that almost a difficult question to answer because every show I've done, my ambition is always greater than the budget and I always want to deliver above and beyond. So, and I think any great filmmaker out there will want to do that. So you're always pushing the boundaries. But yes, there's an expectation and I suppose an angst to kind of doing a big show like that, especially Orange is the New Black, when it was already such a success. And interestingly, they were all rather nervous about season 2 because they went, we've got a hit now. Basically, it's ours to fuck up. And, you know, that means that everybody's slightly on edge. But I think it just makes everybody work that a little bit harder and you interrogate the scripts a little bit more thoroughly and you really push to make it the best you can in the time that you've got.
Chris, from the point of view of audiences, I wonder if there's been just a slight shift in passion from film to television. I saw Peter Fincham talking about how TV had conquered the internet, and he was saying 5 years ago you would be on a train and everyone would be reading newspapers and books, and now they're all looking at tablets. And not only that, they seem to me, when I walk the train or you walk the plane, I try and look at what people are watching, they're very often watching TV series. And it seems that the passion, when you think of True Detective and Breaking Bad, where once there was great passion for films, and of course there is passion for some films, but it feels to me there's been a kind of a transfer in a way.
I think so. I think it goes from, you know, technology, and I think, you know, that change of iPhones and iPads has affected us all in the way we consume media. I also just think there's more of an ambition, I think, to take into consideration binge viewing and immersing yourself in a world of 13 episodes of House of Cards like you do to a film for 90 minutes. You can now do it for 13 hours. And I think going into that world, which has that richness and quality and cinematic effect, but on a small screen and on a very small screen, which means you can take it in your back pocket, just means that you can really engage with those kind of stories. And I do think that there's a merger and there's more options now than ever before, and therefore audiences have great choice. And I think as filmmakers and TV producers, we have to ensure that we're making content available to all those different segments of the marketplace, and you've just got to stand out. And so one way of doing that is to be accessible, make sure that your show shines on this tiny screen and on a big screen, because you've all got big screens at home, but really immerse yourself in that storytelling. So I think all we're doing as a worldwide, as a global set of production companies and producers and broadcasters is engage with audience needs, and they're leading us. And so if we're not where they are, your show doesn't cut through.
And that, Pippa, that's another thing that's changed, isn't it? That audience need that people do really know. They've got very used to binge watching shows.
Absolutely.
And they love it, and they'll get their whole series on a plane on the tablet, right? So that demand and that change is also coming from the audience.
Yeah, absolutely, and also coming from the talent. I mean, I think, you know, it's interesting watching Maggie Gyllenhaal over the last few weeks, and nobody tell me what happened last night because I haven't seen the last episode, but Honourable Woman, you know, to be able to immerse yourself as an actor in a role like that across 8 hours of TV, or when Kate Winslet did Mildred Pierce for HBO. You know, that is I would have thought as an actor is the supreme opportunity and challenge. So you can absolutely understand why people, you know, want to do that. They want to commit themselves to really delving into a character across a number of episodes in a way that you can't possibly do in film.
Okay, let's have a look at some drama. Pippa.
Oh.
The Hollow Crown. Shall we look at the Hollow Crown? Tell us about the Hollow Crown before we look at the clip.
So the Hollow Crown was a series, we did first series of filmed Shakespeare plays, which my friend here, Ben Stevenson, commissioned and championed at the BBC. And then we were lucky enough to get some, our friends at NBCU to come on board. And together we made 4 films. Richard II with Ben Whishaw, the 2 Henry IV films, and then Henry V with Tom Hiddleston. And we've just been commissioned to do a second set, which was, some of the casting was announced yesterday. So Hugh Bonville, Sophie Okonedo, Ben Cumberbatch, Judi Dench, and Sally Hawkins, aforementioned Oscar nominee. But I suspect this will be a little clip from Henry IV. I'm not quite sure what it is, actually.
I think this is Tom Hiddleston as Henry V.
Henry V, even better.
You were just telling me you love watching your own show.
I do. Sorry. It's a bit sad, isn't it? he was trying to talk to her. No, shh. I'm going to watch Tom Hiddleston. It's very sad.
Is that an example of a show that wouldn't have been made a few years ago?
Well, that's interesting. I mean, it could have been made at any time, and obviously the BBC made those Shakespeare plays many years ago, but I think what was exciting for us was to shoot them on location and give them a filmic quality and a filmic scope. And we weren't necessarily thinking we're going to put loads of film stars in it. That sort of happened along the way, but I think the ambition to do something on a scale maybe wouldn't have been there, but that's part of the evolution of TV really generally.
Yeah, it's the ambition is going up everywhere.
Yeah.
We'll have a look at Penny Dreadful as well. We'll look at a trailer from Penny Dreadful. Tell us a bit about Penny Dreadful.
So Penny Dreadful we make for Cameron at Sky, and it was devised by John Logan, who previously had only ever worked in film. So he wrote Skyfall, he wrote Hugo, and he had always yearned to write a genre horror series, and out of his imagination came Penny Dreadful, which is on Sky Atlantic.
And let's have a look at the trailer for Penny Dreadful. That was good as well. I didn't interrupt that time.
No, good.
Cameron, first of all, there's quite a few interesting things to talk about in relation to that show, I think. Why did you commission it, first of all?
So, basically, it is the talent behind the screen and John's ambition for the story. I think it's quite interesting because I think both Anne and myself, always, we thought we would never do a period show on Sky Atlantic because that is done so well elsewhere. But I think that that genre appeal, we knew our audience respond well to. And we knew that it, as you talk about, it could stand out in the marketplace. And I think for us, it had the ambition of a show that could sit alongside those HBO acquisitions that you talk about, True Detective.
Yeah. So that's, yes, so because you're running a lot of HBO shows on Sky Atlantic, when you make your own, it's got to look as good as that. It's got to be that kind of standard. Can I ask you how much that costs? Well,
the important thing to remember there is that...
No.
that is I'm going to dodge
Fantastic, it's a politician's like answer.
The important thing to remember there is a co-production with Showtime in America. So we are the minority partners in that production.
Okay.
But what we felt is that because it is shot in Dublin, because it's set in London, because it has a number of British cast at the heart of the show, we could be having a dialogue with a Sky subscriber that is saying, this is made for you, we have invested in this product for you. But in terms of financing it, we are the minority partner in a co-production.
How many viewers does it get?
It's hard to say because back to your how people consume it comment is that the Sky Go app is doing incredibly well in terms of the downloads. So those figures aren't reflected in Barb. The Barb overnights are strong, and I think...
But you can't be that hard to say. Can't you just add Barb to Sky Go, and then you've got a number?
Well, we can internally, but in terms of it being released publicly, that is not done. Because there's also the on-demand...
Why not? Why not release it?
Well, because I suppose that there are so many... To use The Tunnel as an example, a kudos show, what happened with that is it got the highest overnights for an original show on Sky Atlantic, which was probably, I mean, the consolidateds were over 1 million. Have you got them? But what happened at Christmas is because it was offered to the subscriber as a box set, it went through the roof at Christmas because everyone was consuming it in that way. So at Sky, and particularly on Sky Atlantic, we don't want to just analyse the overnights because that is not the relationship we have with our subscriber.
When you say offered as a box set, was it offered as a box set
on the on-demand platform? And what's also interesting...
I'm sorry, did you pay for that separately?
No, that's available
to
you as a subscriber, yeah. But what's also interesting is we had long conversations with John Logan about the commercial break. And I think that
we didn't want them.
what is appealing, I think, to filmmakers is that because we have the on-demand service, we can run the linear transmission, which does carry commercial breaks, but we can also offer that undisturbed filmic piece in the download environment as well.
It sounds like a very complicated decision to work out whether or not the economics of a show like Penny Dreadful makes sense for Sky, because you're pulling in figures over quite a long period of time. Your overnights, I guess, aren't enormous, are they? So what would you get on your first show of Penny Dreadful? How many people on your overnight, Bob? How many would watch that?
814,000.
Okay, 814,000.
So yeah, so not. But what we look at is not only how many people are watching, but how passionate they are about the shows, because I think in the on-demand environment, the passion rating for a show is what really matters, because a lot of people consume kind of fact-end shows and things like that, but they might not be that passionate about them. What we know with drama is that viewers really respond to it. They rate it really highly. And Sky Atlantic is often cited as the reason why people subscribe to Sky, because people are really passionate about the shows on that channel. So our aspiration is for drama on that channel to sit alongside the acquisitions, for people to be that passionate about those dramas that come through. So there won't be loads, and they will probably be of scale and of budget, because we believe that those are the shows that will deliver those high passion scores.
Okay.
It's similar to Netflix. You know, I doubt if you broke down the figures for House of Cards and the amount they've spent, I mean, it wouldn't look like a sensible investment, but clearly it's had a massive impact. I mean, before House of Cards, nobody was really talking about Netflix as a drama destination, and now it's absolutely alongside all the other players in the game. So, you know, just through that one show.
Amazing, isn't it? And they don't release the figures. Stuart Murphy was saying to me yesterday he thinks there's a lot of smoke and mirrors with the truth about how many people watch these shows on Netflix. The implication being that maybe they're not as high as people believe. SJ, do you know how many people watch Orange is the New Black, and can you tell us?
No, I didn't. No, I actually asked because I was intrigued to find out, and those figures aren't there. All they said is their subscriptions had grown enormously since both those shows had been on the air. I mean, I think there is a figure out there somewhere. Someone out there might even know it, but I think they'd sort of, you know, almost double by, you know, risen by a quarter or something in that period of them going out. But, you know, by their own admission, they say they get an awful lot of subscriptions to things like Mad Men that are, you know, television programs made for television, not just online content. Yeah. So I think it gets along the way, but no, they don't release those at all.
Daniel, COO at Kudos, who made The Tunnel,
yes,
as we heard there for Sky Atlantic. With these shows now needing to sit alongside programmes made by HBO, with the need for them to look so filmic and so expensive, is it now more complicated to find the money? Is it often about putting together partnerships with other people to get these things made at all?
Well, increasingly, yes. The situation as the tax break came in, which was a great thing to have, is because of all the inward investment into the UK.
How does that just explain? How does the tax break actually work?
Well, if you shoot something here and it passes a cultural test, a bit like the film one, you get 20% of your budget back.
Who makes that decision? If it passes a culture
you have to fill in a form, and yeah, so it's imported from the film tax credit. It's been here for a long time. It's not that complicated to do, and most films that are shot here with a British cast would qualify. Pretty much everything would qualify, and you get 20% of your budget, of your spend, your qualifying spend back. So that was an amazing boost for the industry, and it attracted a load of inward investment into the UK. And as we said before, quite a lot of American studios are coming over here to shoot stuff. And the consequence of that is that there was quite a lot of inflation in the budgets of the shows that we're trying to make for our domestic market here in the UK. So increasingly, most of the things that we're doing, not all, but I'll probably say, you know, between 50 and 75% of the shows that we're doing do need a partner of some sort from outside of the UK. So we all go to the same sort of people in America, the cable channels. There's a load of cable channels out there. Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Xbox, although that's no longer looking to invest in those sorts of shows. But there's a huge number of people we can go and talk to. But when you take that money, it comes with conditions. It comes with having a seat at the table, depending on how much they give you. And you have to accommodate a view from America for potentially a show that was generated here, developed here, and is designed for the British audience. So you have to balance the commercial very cleverly against the editorial.
But is that making it harder to get a show on air, in that you have to pitch the show to the channel and then you have to pitch it to another partner to raise?
Well, at the moment there's a lot of opportunity, so not really. It slows it down a bit, yes, because we've got the green light from our UK broadcaster. We then have to go out and try and put the finance together. And but you know, if you've got the right people helping you, and you've got, you know, a good distributor or a good agent, that you can go out there where you know the contacts. So it's a relationship thing. You've got to go out there, meet these people, get to know them, try and do a deal with them, and you need that to deliver the scale on some of the shows, but not everything. You know, as I say, I come back to. I printed this off. It was interesting because if you look at the big shows on the BBC and ITV, BBC One, ITV1, you know, obviously Doctor Who, Sherlock, Call the Wife, New Tricks, Death in Paradise, Jonathan Creek, Silent Witness. These are very British shows. They don't have co-productions involved in them. And the same on ITV. That exception. Pardon?
We do.
Oh, Call the Midwife.
Call the Midwife.
You call the Midwife. Yes, you do. But you know, on ITV, Doc Martin, The Widow of Vera, DCI Banks, Prey. And, you know, these are the big rating shows that are the blockbusters on the main channels that the British audience are coming to in their droves. I think, but increasingly, I mean, we did Hunted with SJ, and that was a co-production. That was a big scale thing, BBC and HBO. And you know, you don't do it for everything, but it does give you, if you can find the right partner who buys into what it is you want to do, then the relationship's great. And it's really, but it is difficult to manage that relationship, and you've got to find the right partner. You've got to be very careful with who you work with, so that both parties share the same creative vision. And the other thing, that when you take that money, you know, it does involve, they're the ones that will dictate whether they want an American actor or two or however many in the mix, because it's not something particularly that I will say BBC One or ITV One are that bothered about on those big channels. I think, and it's good for us because we like it, because it helps market the show and it helps it internationally. So,
Can you give us an example of where it's been difficult, where the relationship has been difficult over a show?
Well, I think we've been quite lucky. I must admit, we've been quite lucky in managing those relationships quite carefully. So no, I
want to know who you've...
But the tunnel, well, you know, that was the tunnel was because it was Canal Plus.
Do you know a little story here?
Do you know some stories about that one? No, the tunnel. I mean, the tunnel's coming back, and the relationship worked. But in any new relationship, it was like we worked with HBO the first time on Tsunami. You know, probably 8 years ago. We hadn't worked with them before, so they were all over us. You know, every decision was questioned, was interrogated. We had weekly calls. It was a whole palaver. When we worked on Hunted, they knew who we were. We worked with them before, and they were great, and it was much easier. So you break the back of a relationship on the first go with them, and they're all tricky. When you get to know them, and they know you can deliver. When they start seeing the rushes, casting can be a tricky thing, because that's a taste thing, but once you get beyond that and you start shooting, and if the material's good.
Does tricky mean there are some massive arguments?
Well, of course there are, yeah, of course there are. At times. I mean, I can't, you know.
With who?
You know, it might well be between the two broadcasters, actually, not necessarily we're sitting in the middle of it. So, you know, there's personalities. You try and limit the number of people that are going to have a say on what goes on, because if you've got more than two or three partners, you start to get into a
Listening to you explain
situation.
it does sound enormously complicated.
Well, you have to, it's experience, you know. Pippa's done a lot of it, well, you know, we've done a lot of it. So the people managing that are experienced at doing it. Choose your partners carefully. That's you know, don't just take the money because they're offering you the most amount of money. It's not driven, we don't drive it by the commercial deal. It has to make sense, but it's really about, can your editorial exec have a relationship with Ben Stevenson or you know, Steve November, and on the person on the other side, is that a good marriage? Is that a good fit? And if it is, and actually in Canal Plus, the people there, they're not, you know, they're really clever people, and it was the process. They have a different process, and the process was slightly different. The way they shoot things, the way they budget things, the way they manage things was a bit different. So we had to accommodate them, and they got used to how we did it. So it wasn't an editorial problem, and if there's no editorial problem, then we'll find a way through it. If there's an editorial problem, you know, that's where a show goes wrong.
We're going to look at a clip from each of you guys. Dan, you've picked Utopia.
Yeah, Utopia, in a way, because although it didn't have necessarily filmic talent, it had a filmic scale to it, and it had a filmic sensibility. And interestingly, this show, when this went out on Channel, the first series went out on Channel 4 a few years ago, we didn't actively go out and pitch this in the States for a remake, but it found its way into Hollywood, into the agents got hold of it, and then the creative community started looking. And we got lots of calls coming in saying, oh, really, can we do a remake of this? It's amazing, it's so different, we've never seen anything like this. Yeah. And we got quite excited by that, and we had people, you know, every day someone would ring up saying, so-and-so wants to direct it, or so-and-so wants to write it. Wow, this is great. And then eventually David Fincher, we got a call in from David Fincher's people. David was seeing this, he would be really interested in doing a remake. He has a deal with HBO, and HBO were interested, and so we're now in a process.
Is it happening?
Well, we think so, but you know, it's David Fincher, so if he decides to do it, he'll do it. But he says he's going to do it. We think he's going to do it, but no one's told us for sure. But he's working with Gillian Flynn, who wrote Gone Girl with him, and so hopefully it will happen. Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look at Utopia. Daniel, I think it's an amazing show, Utopia, but it makes me a little bit sad because no one appears to watch it.
No. Good point. Not enough people appear to watch it, although it's very popular on catch-up. You know, it was a challenging show. And you know, Channel 4 gave us free rein to really push the boundary, and we did, and that's exactly why, you know, why they commissioned it in the first place.
It'd be quite a good fit for Sky in a way, because you know, it's got incredible passion, right? The people that watch it absolutely love that show. It's a passion show, isn't it?
I think that is perhaps true of drama across the board. And it's interesting when you said, but seeing people on the train consuming it like they'd consumed books in the past. I think there is something in that people like to kind of commit to something, and yeah, that relationship with shows.
Actually, can I ask you, is there a fundamental difference as a director between working for a British broadcaster and an American broadcaster?
Yes and no. I mean, ultimately, for a director, a film set's a film set wherever you are. You know, your job is just to tell the story. I'd say the generalised answer that I usually give is the best way to describe it. If you're talking about a general episodic show where you're going in to do an episode, I would say in America you have more money, less time, and in the UK you have less money, more time. So by which I think America has a lot of money, a lot more people, and things happen very, very quickly. So you have 7 days to prep, 8 days to shoot, and 4 days to edit.
That's on a typical show. So on Dexter, Orange is the New Black, on most of those,
that could be Orange is the New Black. I mean, high-end cable is longer. High-end cable is usually 8 days prep, 9, 10, 11 days shoot, depending on which show you're on. But yeah, so I did Bates Motel, and it was 7 days prep, 8 days shoot, 4 days edit. So very, very quick. So you sort of have to go in and be absolutely on the top of your game. I mean, you really, it was a bit of a culture shock when I first went out there, because in the UK there was a little bit more time, and I remember saying, they asked me how I was going to block a scene, and I said, well, I'm just going to be a bit more organic and just figure it out. And he said, well, let's get in the van and be organic. And I go, organic, and I got driven up to the Universal lot, and with the entire crew in another van, you know, on my HODs, and they were like, right, now we've got to block this shootout. And I was literally like, okay, and I had to just literally pull it out the bag, and he said, doesn't matter if you change your mind, but where's this lamp going to blow? Where's the explosion going to go off? Where's the shooter going to be? And I literally sort of had to stand and do that, and I realised it's just very, very, very fast, you know.
And therefore more highly pressured, presumably.
Yeah, much more highly pressured in a way, yeah. But I think, you know, that gets that muscle working, and it's actually quite an exhilarating experience. I mean, it can be very frustrating because there's not enough time, but there does seem to be the money, and I'm not saying it's a bottomless pit either. There's never enough time. As a director, there will never be a big enough schedule, you know. So you have to take that into consideration, but there's definitely, you know, there's more toys and there's more people around you, you know. I mean, I've recently shot a pilot for USA for NBC UCP cable, and that had a crew of about 150, you know, and so that's a big amount of people. I'm not sure what it is here these days, but it was a hell of a big amount, and that was on location as well. We were actually filming internationally. So.
How does that compare, Danny? How big would a crew be on a British drama?
Listen, how many would be on our crew?
Less than 100. Yeah. Yeah, so much bigger. So you have sort of, every department will have a second and a third and a fourth person beneath them, and it just, so things get done quicker. So you ask for something in the morning of what you need it to look like, or a design mock-up, and it's pretty much turned around. Could be in a few hours, could be by that afternoon. And so I think that, you know, a director's job is predominantly a lot of decision making, so your decisions have to be made a lot quicker, a lot faster.
Is it more exciting?
Yes, it can be. I mean, I feel very fortunate that I have a foot in both places, because I would never want to give up sort of the UK, and I think with UK film and television making is a wonderful thing, and there's time, and you can really develop it and you can nurture. But it's a different thing, you know. On this pilot, you know, having said that, I'm talking about episodic, and I think episodic is a bit quicker. If you're going to do 2 episodes of Waterloo Road, say, then you're going to be in and out in sort of, I don't know, 3 months, would you, as a director? You know, but I have just been on this pilot since February, and it's still in production. I mean, we haven't even finished the pilot yet, so that's taken up most of the year. So it just depends what level you're at. If you're making a pilot and you're
We got a clip.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We do. Yeah, we do have a clip.
Yes, we do. This is the
unfinished, but an unfinished trailer.
This is the Tim Kring.
It was written by Tim Kring and Gideon Raff. Gideon Raff, who wrote Homeland and Tyrant, and Tim Kring of Heroes and Touch, and they got together. It was Gideon's idea, and it was made through Keshet, and we shot in Israel and Canada. And
it's called Dig.
It's called Dig. Yes, it's called Dig, and it's basically starring Jason Isaacs and Anne Hesh, and it's about an FBI guy who investigates a murder in Jerusalem, which uncovers a 2,000-year-old conspiracy.
Shit, you get to work on some good stuff.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun, and we were on location in Jerusalem, which was an incredible experience.
Let's have a look at Dig. Another great piece of work by S.J. Clarkson there.
Well, we'll see.
God, it looks thrilling.
It's exciting, yeah.
Were you filming there when the Troubles began again?
We were, yes, we were at the tail end of our production when it was starting to kick off, yeah.
And what impact did that have on you?
Well, it had an impact in the fact that we couldn't film in Jerusalem for some of our days, so we had to film up the coast, 3 hours up the coast in Acre, and recreate Jerusalem up there. We were supposed to be cutting there, and we did about, I don't know, a week and a bit of the director's cut, and then we got moved back to Los Angeles. So.
Okay. I wondered if the speed with which you work for an American TV company that you mentioned, if that has advantages creatively. Obviously, there are advantages in having more money, you're aware of that, but for you, being forced to make quicker decisions, what are the advantages to that?
Well, I think there's advantages and disadvantages. I mean, I think as long as you've had enough prep time and the script doesn't change too much, or that, you know, as long as structurally the script is there, then I think you're always thinking about it. I mean, the minute you get sent a script, whether it be just to read it, I think as a director you're continually thinking about it, so it's always there. So I guess when you're forced to make those decisions more quickly, but I don't know, sometimes I think it can be for the better, because I think if your tool is sharpened, if your director tool as such is sharpened, then, you know, it can be quite exciting. And other times it's just frustrating that there's not enough time to think about it. But I think what it does is it forces you to use your instincts. And I think that's what you should do as a director anyway, is follow your gut and what does your gut tell you. And yes, sometimes when you're up against it with a gun to your head to sort of, you know, finish the day, or a location's dropped out and you've got to make a sort of split-second decision because thousands of dollars are at stake, then you do just go with your gut, and, you know, 99% of the time you think, well, that was the right decision. Occasionally you think, shit, if I'd have had a bit more time, I would have gone a different way. But, you know, that's the director's job, and that's very exciting, and I think it's why I do it. But, you know, more time and more money is always what I think a director would like.
Chris Oliver Taylor from Matchbox Pictures. We're going to look at a clip of yours that you've chosen. This is Devil's Playground. What's Devil's Playground?
So Devil's is the next generation for a film set in 1974, filmed in 1974. It's set in 1988. And it goes into a very delicate territory of a young boy is found dead in a lake, and it starts to explore a mystery, a very dark mystery in the Catholic Church. It's a really brave piece of drama. It's commissioned by Foxtel, which is our pay TV, with NBC Universal. And we are incredibly proud of this piece. We think it's up there with The Slap, which we made a couple of years ago for the ABC. And what Foxtel has done, and the ABC in Australia, is they commission an incredibly brave piece of drama that we think stand out internationally. And we hope, compared to some of the things we've seen today, we'll see what you think. But we certainly are trying to ensure we're playing on that playing field, that internationally this show will stand up. So it's a brave piece of drama. It will make, we think, quite a few headlines. We hope it will. It goes into very dark places, and it's a great bit of TV drama.
Okay, let's have a look at Devil's Playground.
I thought that looked great. I'll be watching that.
That's great.
Me too, that looks awesome.
SJ, from a director's point of view, what do you make of that?
Yeah, it looks great, fantastic.
Cameron, from a commissioner's point of view, what do you make of that?
What it is, what we're trying to do with Tony there and others, I mean, this, you know, it's, I can say my budget for that kind of show because it won't, you know, offend here, but that's made for about 1.1 million Australian dollars or US dollars, give or take. That's what we make those things for.
How long is it?
So that's a 50-minute piece, 6-part series. And like Dan was saying, that is financed by many partners. So we're fortunate that we've got a brave broadcaster in Foxtel. That will cause some ripples. That goes into, as I said, dark places without trying to give the plot away. It will make some noise. And we want it to. The reason why Foxtel have commissioned that is for that exact reason. To go to the numbers conversation we had earlier, it's not all about numbers. It's about making a statement. This is brave storytelling and great, engaging drama. We then got NBC Universal, came on very early on, funded a big advance for international, and there'll be a big push at MIPCOM this year to sell this show internationally, already sold into quite a few territories. And we think that's great. Australia can put that kind of a show, that kind of a drama, and I think it stands up to some of the things that we've seen today. I hope it does.
Yeah, it looks like it does. I wanted to ask you about that, because we've been talking about the UK and a lot about the US, and I was interested in where Australia fits into that story. To join the playing field that we're talking about, is it harder to do that?
We're at best third, aren't we? So if any a US show will sell all around the world if it's any good. Australia will buy the US shows. The UK often will. The UK shows, most of those will sell to Australia or maybe the US. And Australia then is playing, with South Africa and others as a third or fourth choice UK language show. So lots of buyers, but small buyers. What we want to do, as I'm speaking on behalf of the producers, not just on Matchbox, is try and make content that the US and the UK market want. So The Slap's been remade by NBC now for NBC for next year. There's about 14 shows currently out of Australia, not all ours unfortunately, that are being remade or in development with US and UK networks, which is a huge boom. So I was at a session yesterday and talking about the next you know, the hot countries. It's been Israel and been Holland, you know, and I think in drama, Australia's right up there. There's a lot of focus on Australian talents, and I think that's because directors, producers, and talent, you know, we do, you know, bat against above our weight a bit there, you know.
But in the end, relative to population size, the pot of money is presumably smaller, so therefore you have to structure quite complicated deals to find the financing.
All of our shows have to have international distribution on board. We're lucky we have the offset, so like you guys have the UK tax break, we had ours 4 or 5 years ago, which has revolutionised the model there. So 20% for qualifying spend. We have a federal body and some state bodies which put money in as well. But those bodies, you know, going to what Dan was saying around ties and their money's worth something, you have to have international distribution. So you've got to make all of these shows with your eye on will they sell. And so for us, you have Toni Collette, that we know that will get UK and US attention. It's also fortunate that she's a brilliant actress and is right for the role. But would we have to commission someone who maybe plays to a US market because we need sales? Maybe. You know, go to the compromise I think SJ was mentioning earlier. We've got to make sure we play internationally. And, you know, if you're talking to very domestic broadcasters like the ABC, that's when you're going to compromise around, well, do you want a big UK actor or do you want a big US actor? If you look at the original Slap, there was 2 big UK actors in that piece, and it's sold in the BBC, BBC 3 I think it was, or BBC 4, but it's sold in the BBC because of that.
Yeah, I was just going to say something about that, because Dan mentioned that earlier. I think one of the things that's most interesting for me is they did a survey recently of the most watched scripted shows around the world, and 20 years ago those were all US shows, whether it was, you know, Kojak or whatever it might have been, and still the, you know, CIS and so on are right at the top. But We Call the Midwife is the 4th most watched scripted show. Doc Martens the 5th. Downton's in the list. Yeah, Downton and...
Call the Midwife is the 4th most watched scripted show in the world.
Yeah, well, in this survey that they did for MIP, which was going across the major markets. And what I think is interesting is that those are people who are watching, as you were saying, quintessentially British shows. There's no kind of... We haven't put shoehorned in an American in a wimple to sell to America. They are buying something which they love, which is something which is purely British. Same with Downton, same with you know, Doc Martin. So I think, although I know what you're saying about you have to sort of have an eye to whether your show sells, actually the weird thing is if you stick to your guns and just make something that's the best possible show, it very probably will sell regardless.
Yeah, but the confidence of that filmmaking is coming through in that promo, isn't it? And it's very kind of specific to its place. But
it's just that what we've got to be careful, I think, as being part of NBCU as well. It's important we play in an international space, so we can make a very, very local. We do make very, very local Australian shows, and they just stay in Australia, and that's what they should do, and they play to that market. I think when you make that kind of a show, you want that story to go broader than Australia. You want it to, and so you just need to play to your advantage, you know. And because the scripts were so good, and because the direction was so great, you attract in big names which play to that broader audience. So, and I think it's where Australia is naturally in that pecking order. We're not the UK or not the US, so we do have to make sure we can play a bit bigger. But you're right, the Slap actually didn't have a massive named cast by any means, and it is the most local show you can make. Suburban Melbourne, you know, with a Greek family, very, very suburban, and yet that's going to be on NBC next year, and we'll see how that plays. So I think you're right, going incredibly local can work for the right show.
But Pepe, just go back to the point you're making there. The market, the international market, shows travel and sell more than they ever have. When you're putting together a drama, even if it is inherently British, like Call the Midwife or Downton Abbey, there's still an eye right on selling abroad. There's not always.
Well,
not if you don't have to. No, I mean Broadchurch was a show for ITV. It was all British. It was the most watched British show ever on French television. It got like 6 or 7 million viewers. It was massive. You didn't design that. It just the quality of the show, the audience came to it. You know, it was big in Australia. A lot of the shows we've made in the past actually don't rate internationally. They sold well because of the quality. People heard about them, knew about them. They weren't big rating smashes, but Broadchurch is our most successful.
So you're not always thinking about the American market when you're putting together a drama?
Jane, my boss Jane, does not. It's about the vision of the writer. It's about putting the team together, getting the cast, the right director, putting the team together and making it primarily for ITV, BBC One, whoever our primary broadcaster is here. If you start thinking about that, you get diverted from the real vision of what you want to do. And so, no, you very rarely do. If you have to do a co-production, you automatically have to consider something else from outside.
I think you're right. My understanding of Downton, one of the shows that kind of will make with us, that's just a high-end quality British show. It just happened to travel because of those things. I think that I echo that entirely for those particular shows.
Yeah.
Did
Downton was a big game changer because of the ratings in America getting 8-9 millions, and Sherlock as well, and it sort of caused a bit of a sea change in the American market being used to hearing British voices. Game of Thrones saw British actors predominantly. So there's a real change, and what's interesting is in France and Germany they are wanting to commission the English language now, so they want to start playing in the international market so that they can you know, own IP. It's a commercial decision, but they want to be playing on that global scale, and if they've got a French language or a German language thing, it doesn't have the same degree of global impact, although, you know, we know for The Killing and Borgen and those shows that play out here on BBC4, you know, there's a market for that. And it's all changed.
But there are more opportunities than ever before.
Totally, yeah, totally, yeah.
Did you make the American Broadchurch?
Yeah, we co-produced, yeah, Grace Point.
How was it? Is that where David Tennant is in it, but with an American accent?
Might
that right?
be, yeah. It's very good. It's
weird.
Pardon?
It's weird. Is that just a bit fucking weird?
Well, we'll see. It's not out yet.
Very right. You're making the second series at the moment, I think.
A Broadchurch.
Yeah. Yeah. Is the world of these sorts of dramas that we've discussed today, which are huge in scale, filmic in ambition, complex to finance very often when you're looking to do these different deals, are they the preserve of super indies, of big companies? If you're a small indie and there are small indies represented at this festival, it's going to be very hard to put together a big drama that you can finance with HBO, for example.
Well, I mean, we're a small indie, you know, there are 8 of us in the company in total, including, you know, the intern and the assistant. So, you know, I think if you've got the right project, and everybody's been saying the same thing, you know, if you've got a great script, really, and great cast and a great director, I don't think you need to be a super indie. I mean, being a super indie doesn't necessarily give you the money. You're going to the same broadcasters as the super indies are going to, even if you're just a little company.
Okay.
You probably have to have support of a distributor behind you who can help you to sometimes navigate the financing structures and to maybe underwrite some of the cash involved. But it's a big risk for a broadcaster to commission a one-man band to produce a £10 million.
That's what I'm saying. For a new company, hard to break into, right, Cameron? Would you commission a brand new company you didn't know much about to make a great big drama?
There's 2 things there. Firstly, and I think what Mike Lombardo was talking about yesterday is so true. It's all about the idea and the kind of originality of the idea. Where that comes from actually isn't that important. I think then there's 2 things. There is a kind of how you're supported kind of building the kind of finance model, and I think at Sky we have a distribution arm in Sky Vision who can support smaller indies with that. But I also think it is about production expertise, and I think that what I would perhaps advise to a smaller indie that hasn't perhaps produced at scale for one of the major channels is that I would partner them with one of the other indies who perhaps have got a track record in delivering at scale, because it is such a risk when you're producing at scale.
Okay. We're about to wrap this up. Let's open this up to the audience and see if anyone has any questions for any of our esteemed panel. Yes. Good morning. We'll bring a microphone to you. Tell us your name.
Hello, Chiara Cabeca, Delos Network.
Hi.
Sorry. One thing I wanted to ask you is, going back to the reasons why television is so appealing to people now, you used many adjectives before. You called it sexy, say television is cool, is cinematic, and so on. And that's all through. What I wanted to ask is, do you think there's also an element of television being free to push boundaries and explore society's constructs more than what big movies choose to do today?
I think that's absolutely true. I mean, I think we made Revolutionary Road a few years ago for Paramount at a point where they still had, as you were saying, a specialty division. They've since shut their specialty division, and, you know, Focus, as we know, has sort of stopped doing things like Brokeback Mountain and you know, the quintessentially art house films they used to do, and are now doing 50 Shades of Grey. So, you know, there's been quite a shift in what they consider to be an art house film. So I think that it's very difficult to get those types of sort of serious dramas made in the film world. It's really, really tough, and certainly to do them in the way we did Revolutionary Road, which was sort of, you know, $20–30 million movie. I think we simply couldn't do it now. We wouldn't get it funded. Whereas, you know, you tell that story or a story that touches on those kind of dark elements in TV, particularly cable or here for the BBC or Sky or somebody, and they lap it up. You know, that's what they want.
Okay, that was a very well-received comment. By an audience that appears to be at the tennis. Thank you very much indeed. Do we have another question? Yes, hello there, sir. Do we have a microphone for you? I could repeat. There you go, there's a microphone here.
David Graham from a company called Attentional. Dan, you mentioned a lot of conversations in the US, and you mentioned obviously your relationship with Canal+, but little else about Europe. How many players and who are they who have the real ambition to be part of the larger projects we've been talking about today?
Well, there's lots of them, you know, ZDF, France Television. You go and talk to all these people, but it's actually quite hard to find the right fit of show, because culturally the types of shows that they show in prime time may be very different from the types of shows that we do here. So the ones that sort of I think probably share our sensibility more are the paid cables. I think, well, I don't know what Sky Italia and Sky Germany and Sky together now may be an opportunity for more collaborative commissioning across the piece. But I've spent years trying to get something away in Germany as a co-production, and it's really hard, and there's not that much experience. But you know, I've also started going to Scandinavia, and we had long conversations with Sweden actually about Hunted at some point, and they were going to come on board with that, and they didn't in the end. But there's lots of conversations, there's lots of interest, and there's lots of things actually in production at the moment. So we'll see. I mean, The Tunnel was the first, I think, bilingual returnable series, big scale co-production, and it worked, and it's coming back. But Canal+ have got a relationship with you, haven't they? And
we're developing other projects with Canal+. I should introduce Agnieszka Moody, who's sitting in the front row from Creative Europe, because Agnieszka can really advise on introductions and also the Creative Europe funding.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have another question? Yes, lady at the back. Tell us your name and who's your question for.
My name's Julie Craig. I run Tayscreen, one of the UK screen commissions. We're in Scotland. I'm just fascinated, and you mentioned Creative Europe there. We're increasingly asked to describe innovation in terms of any project, any production, or trying to get funding, or any of those things. Without saying how you're going to be innovative, what's your kind of approach to describing innovation to the extent you need to do that? It's such an overused word, I guess, these days.
I think we've pretty answered it in one way. I mean, I think that you've got to create stories that, in this very crowded market, just stand out. And I think you innovate in very, very different ways, be that the way that SJ directs, or the way that we now cast in TV, or the way that we produce. I think you've got to be innovative in a financial sense to how you bring your money together, which I think some of the guys have discussed. And I think you've got to be innovative in the markets you play in. So, I mean, ultimately, does TV look different today than it did 10 years ago? I don't know. Maybe it does. It soon looks more richer and bolder, and it certainly has a more international flavour. So I think that innovation is organic and ongoing. So the way I'd approach innovation is to say you need to make a show which will stand out and will be either heard by commissioners or be seen by audiences. And I think that innovation should apply across the editorial and the financial and the creative side.
Great, thank you very much. We have time for one more question. If anyone would like to ask a question, it would appear that we have covered everything. Hello there. Okay, thank you. Yes, hi.
I'd just like to ask, with relation to the title about the new film, it's hard to imagine anyone financing a film without the director being one of the key elements which you use to raise money. I congratulate this panel being I think, the only panel in this entire festival which has a director on it. Does the panel want to talk about what the importance of the director is in financing film?
Well, Ashley, do you want to take that
well, I mean, probably about financing is probably for you, but I do. I mean, it was something, you know, I'm glad that Charles has brought it up, because I think so long television has been known as a writer's medium, and that's almost been a little bit scary for directors, and we've felt like we've potentially been marginalised by the growth of the role of the showrunner, and that our voice maybe isn't heard quite as much. And I think that's very scary, because directors bring a huge amount to filmmaking, and no, one can't do anything without a script, but you do need a director in order to realise that. And what is exciting about the state of television television now. And, you know, certainly looking at funding, I can only speak for looking at someone like Fincher. I know the reputation of House of Cards by working in America, and Fincher runs that show, and it's run by a director. Steven Soderbergh is running The Nick, Guillermo del Toro is running The Strain. There are an awful lot more directors now. Martin Scorsese is helming another pilot. You know, directors are becoming a voice in television, which I think is very exciting because they do bring an innovative authenticity to the work that the writing does, but if it's not realised in the same way, then I don't think it will reach the audience. So, I mean, I think it's key, and I have to say I'm always more excited by projects where I get sent a script where they say, we're in the early stages, we want to get a director attached, you know, we'd love to get your thoughts. That to me is much more exciting because it means I'm going to be integrated into the process rather than just parachuting in with this script and a budget and having to kind of meld the two together.
But yes, a film would be described as a Sam Mendes film, but a television show wouldn't be described as an S.J. Clarkson television show.
Well, no, not unless I'd concede it. I mean, I created a show called Mistresses, you know, co-created it with 2 other people, and that ran at the BBC for 3 years, you know, but it was never really created by, it was actually about the cast, because at that time I felt it was much more sort of, you know, actor-led. But I think it can be, if you look at, as I say, Fincher's kind of really up there at the moment, I think, because House of Cards has broken through, but, you know, directing talent attracts acting talent, and that attracts an audience, and that attracts revenue. So for me, in some ways, it's a virtuous circle to include the director in it, because that does make a difference. And I've worked with a number of big actors now who I know I could call upon from working in my television series, from Vera Farmiga and Toni Collette, you know, and all of these actresses and actors that I've worked with over in the States that you gain a relationship with in television that you could call upon and work with. And I think that does bring the director into quite a powerful position.
Dan, did you want to say something on that point?
No, I was just saying that more frequently now we are attaching directors early on in developments or co-developing with directors. Actually, we've got quite a number of, about 4 or 5 developments where we've partnered directors and, or directors come to us with ideas and we've taken them to writers. Or once we get the green light, we attach really quickly, you know, way in advance of starting prep. We try and get our directors on board. With the amount of stuff that's going on, the directors have never been in more demand, and you know, we find it hard to find the right director at the moment. They're all in America. You're in America, you should be in England.
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here right now.
It's not fair.
Do you want to sign SJ up for something right now? That's it, really.
We've got all your directors.
Thank you to you for coming so early. You're now free to go back to bed. And thank you to our panel, to television's greatest director, S.J. Clarkson, to television's greatest COO, Daniel Isaacs, to Australia's greatest producer, Chris Oliver-Taylor, to Britain's greatest producer, Pippa Harris, and Sky's greatest commissioner, Cameron Roach. Put your hands together, thank you.